She's funny, she's smart, she craves chocolate every day, and she is the Greek goddess of comedy. Here is your host, Ellen Karis.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Karis' Comedy Corner. My name is Ellen Karis, and you're listening to the guest edition of Karis' Comedy Corner. We have this spectacular guest. I am so excited. But before we bring him on, of course, we got to do the ads. Got to thank our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Baywalk Marketing. Go to their website, baywalk.net, for all of your advertising and marketing needs. They can help you with any type of a flyer. They can help you with your demographics. They can help you analyze your business, whatever you need. They are there for you. Go to their website, baywalk.net. They're also experts in the Greek community. They have a great website, hollywoodgreeks.com, for all your Greek entertainment, hellenicfestivals.org to find out where there's a Greek festival near you. And we thank them for their support all of these years. Our other sponsor is Select Flex. What is that? It is an orthotic. What's an orthotic? It's also called an insert, and you put it in your shoe. Why? Everybody needs this because everything starts with your feet and works its way up. This helps you with your alignment. It's good for your ankles, your knees, your hips, your back, everything. I'm telling you right now, I live in New York City. I walk all over the place. I have these in every pair of shoes, sneakers, Uggs, which have absolutely no support. And the beauty of this product is, excuse me, is that you know that we don't edit here at Karis Comedy Corner. So I'm just going to keep going. The beauty of this product is that there's an adjustability in the arch, and you can adjust the arch firm, extra firm, depending on what your needs are. Go to their website, selectflex.com, selectflex.com, and check out their video. It's like 30 seconds. And for Karis Comedy Corner listeners, there's a 25% discount. If you type in the code FAMILY25, FAMILY25, you get a 25% discount because you, my listeners, I feel are like family, except I fight a lot less with you guys. All right. So, and we thank them always for their support. And we mean that figuratively and literally. All right. So very excited to have our guest on. I met him in person in January, or just 2 months ago. Now it's been 2 months. And it was just such a pleasure. I was headliner at his new comedy club. And I say new, I mean, opened during COVID, which I still haven't heard of anybody else doing this. So chutzpah would be an understatement. But to sound less New York, I would say a visionary, because he had vision that this thing was going to be over with and people were going to want to go out. So anyway, without further ado, please welcome my friend and owner of Crackpots Comedy Club in Massillon, Ohio, Chris Ketler.
Hey.
Hey.
How's everybody doing? Thank you very much, Ellen.
Thank you for joining. I know you're busy. I know you got things going on. Because people think, hey, Midwest, everybody's laid back. You work all the time.
I don't stop. Yeah. I got the best job in the world, so why wouldn't you want to be working? You know what I mean? It's the way I feel about it.
So before we get to your fabulous club that I had a spectacular time at, we did 4 shows, 2 on a Friday night, 2 on a Saturday night. The people were salt of the earth. If I wasn't so neurotic, I could move there. I'm just a little too hyper for the place. But as far as like values and just welcoming and just sort of really down to earth and just people that like people, I can live in Massillon. I mean, I can easily live there. Mm-hmm.
We call it the Midwest. Yeah, that's what it is. It's pretty nice.
Very different. A lot of space, a lot of fresh air. And although I came in January, which is not exactly, it's
the ideal month to be there.
Right. It probably would have been a little nicer in July, and it was cold, but I did miss the snowstorm. I mean, weather-wise, yes. I got so lucky because there was a snowstorm before I came, and then there was one after I left. And
we didn't know if it was. We questioned it for a minute, even on the phone.
So for anybody that's that's not from the Midwest or New England or a place where, I mean, because even with the Northeast, it's still different, even with New York. And I live in New York City, so that's like even a different weather pattern than like the suburbs. But it's so much more different because there it's got to be like multiple feet of snow, foots of snow for anybody to stay home. And I'll never forget. So it was snowing and you're like, everything's fine. Just check the airline, which, I was in shock that everything was on time. I mean, in New York, it could be just a bird flying by and then they're going to stop the plane. But as we were driving, we did see some people off the road and all you kept saying is, why don't they have the right tires?
Yeah, they should have good tires. You'll stay on the road. You got a great memory there.
I mean, it was so impressive. You were very calm. I felt very safe. I mean, it wasn't pounding snow, but it was the kind of snow where here in New York, New Jersey, Long Island, people wouldn't go out unless they absolutely had to,
Right. Don't you think that might be because in your area, you have a lot more mass transit that supplements your transportation. And here in the Midwest, we have public transportation, but it's much more localized. Like Cleveland has public transportation, Akron does, and you can get from one another, but it's not easy. Right. Not like it is in New York and New Jersey. Do you think that might have something to do with why the driving aspect might be a little bit different?
No, I think people are just weaker. I just think we're weak. When it comes to that, I just complete wussies,
Just no damn backbone.
That's it, oh my God, because we get like this when it's just like an inch, when it's like a dusting, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I feel confident in responding with that, wussy observation. But everybody has to know this about you, which I found
fascinating. Here we go.
Was that you are not originally from Ohio, although you've lived there for how long?
Oh God, I don't know. Since 89, 88,
okay.
somewhere around there. Yeah.
Decades
now, yeah.
You are originally from Florida.
Yeah, I grew up in Central Florida.
Central Florida, mind you.
Yeah, it's damn nice down there. The beaches are close. They got plenty to do, attractions and stuff. Yeah.
And you moved to Ohio, which of course, and again, I realize it was a long time ago, but usually it's always the reverse. And certainly now, I mean, fast forwarding to the present day, everybody's going south for a lot of different reasons.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
So although you have your comedy club now, you've planted your roots in Ohio, but do you ever think about Florida or doing something in Florida or going back to Florida or?
Florida is a great place to visit. That's what I think. I like to visit, but I really wouldn't want to live there. I live a very rural lifestyle, very slow pace, and I'm comfortable. I left the rat race of Orlando, Florida, and it took me a while to find my place. But the Midwest where I live, I'm very happy. This is where I want to spend the rest of my life. The winters are tough, but they're quick, So people will say, "How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that?" That's not the hard part. I think the hardest part for me living in the Midwest is not having the water that we had in Florida. If I could have one thing from my time in Florida, it's the waters. The waters are beautiful. They're crystal clear. They're everywhere. There's the ocean, the springs, the lakes, the rivers, and just that's probably what I miss the most about it.
It's interesting. Anytime my husband and I talk about leaving New York, which is becoming a conversation a little bit more frequent these days. I mean, not tomorrow, but or maybe just getting something else.
Right.
I always say, because he had brought something up about the Carolinas, because my brother-in-law lives in like the middle of South Carolina. And I'm like,
Asheville, probably, right?
yeah, then I'm like, that won't work because there's no water. And even though I live in Manhattan, there's water and I can get to water, so I feel the same way. And I was just last week in Naples, Florida. My uncle lives down there. My husband went there for business. He went to go visit his mom. Then he came to the West Coast and whatever. So we had a whole thing. It was and we had family down there and stuff. Beautiful, it was really lovely. And so I completely agree. I'm also, I don't know if it's because I'm Scorpio or whatever, but like, I'm very, like the water is very important. I could never live landlocked like that,
Yeah, imagine living like in Nebraska or Oklahoma, I mean, my goodness. I just,
It's funny. I actually have been to Nebraska once because we had went on a cruise. We went on a cruise years ago and we met these really nice people. We actually kept in touch for quite a while, but then I don't know, we just haven't. I mean, her and I are like friends on Facebook, but we don't really communicate as much. But anyway, talk about salt of the earth and whatever. And I wanted to go and we went and I was mesmerized. I mean, it was, talk about taking the city girl out and we're driving and it's cornfields and it's just, it was just nothing like I've ever seen before, And it is she would call it the butthole of the country, right? Because it's like right in the middle. Referred to, and it's all, I mean, again, nice people, but I don't want to say simple. Actually, they had a very, very successful business. I won't say what it was, but they had a very successful business, and they lived. They did very well, but there you don't need as much, and people don't build McMansions. You know what I mean? They just
without a doubt, yeah.
They had a lovely house. They had trucks. They had cars. They did their thing. They went out to dinner and stuff, but it wasn't like they needed like a million things. They'd go to Lincoln or Grand Island or Omaha, kind of thing. And driving. And that's the other thing too. Like they'll drive wherever, they'll drive hours to get to wherever they are. I've actually been there, but because of stand-up comedy, that is the only reason why I've ever gone to Ohio, Michigan, states, that I've never been to before.
Right. Well, I wonder what the comedy scene is like someplace out there, because, even though Ohio and Michigan has rural areas, we still have, both states have very good comedy scenes.
Detroit, right? I mean, Detroit.
Oh yeah, Lansing, Detroit. There's a number. And Flint, even, I think.
I'm sorry, which? Flint.
And even Flint, Flint, Michigan, yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's a place, I think Livonia is another place.
Yeah, Livonia's one, yeah.
Right. I know that, and of course, as you know, I'm Greek, and so I'm always analyzing where the Greek population is. And so there is actually quite a bit in Michigan. And I did a Greek show in Michigan. It was, I think it was called St. Clair Shores, something like that. It was outside of Detroit. It was like, I don't know, 15 miles outside of Detroit. But speaking of Ohio in particular, Cleveland and Ohio itself has generated tons of great comedians. Drew Carey, just naming what, Steve Harvey.
Well, we could go way back. We could go back to Bob Hope. Bob Hope is from Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah.
Is he really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, his dad built a bridge. That's a beautiful bridge. His father was not a designer, but an actual laborer on the bridge there. But yeah, there's buildings that have apartments that Bob Hope stayed in back in the vaudeville days and such, and they're still there in Cleveland today. There's a lot of rich history in Cleveland. It's amazing.
Yeah, I did do shows in Cleveland. I mentioned to you Hilarities, and then there was a Greek church in Rocky River, which is a suburb. Also very nice. And actually here at home, one of my very good friends, she actually became a friend of my sister. My niece and her daughter are like best of friends, and we become very close. And she's from Cleveland, and just lovely, just really nice, wonderful, lovely. commit, great for like great to have like as friends, people. And she's just really great.
That's cool.
It's very funny because when like years ago, my sister was talking to me and she goes, our friend's name is Connie, and she goes, I love Connie, but she leaves the longest voicemails. I'm like, and my sister, who's never really gone out of New York or Florida, but I go, and she's certainly never been to the Midwest. I'm like, she's from the Midwest. That's how they talk. They're very wordy. They're not in a rush. They want to give you the details. That's how they talk. She's like, oh my God, I'm like, so I said, they're not neurotic like us,
Yeah, and there's some people that are over the top with that. And those are the ones that drive you absolutely batshit crazy.
Like, how do you know? I go, because I do comedy. I go all over the country. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. It's great to go to the different places and see the differences
so
in the parts of the country, though. Yes.
It's so fun. It's so fun. So let's talk about you and comedy and how you got involved. Were you ever a comic?
Yeah, I still do comedy. I've been doing comedy for, gosh, I don't know, 15 years. Started local here in the Northeast Ohio area, and had some great people along the way who were there for me, who saw some things. The local club owner, made sure I always got good spots and time. And I had a friend who's no longer with us, a guy named Chili Chalice, who used to do a lot of coaching for me.
I know Chili. I know Chili.
Yeah. He's passed, right?
I know. I'm sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you with a very sweet Chili.
He's super guy, though.
This man, it's gotta be a good 15 years. It was definitely before I was married. Yeah, it was definitely a good 15 years. I've been doing comedy about 20. So 15, 16 maybe. I got a gig, and actually it was Basil, of our friend Basil, who was from Cleveland, hooked me up to somebody in the place is no longer. It's funny too, because I just looked it up not that long ago. It's no longer around. It was Villa Roma. It was in Lancaster. It was an Amish country, and I was featuring. And it was 4 shows. It was 2 on one Friday, 2 Saturday, and 1 on Sunday night at like 8:00. Because I remember getting in the car and having to come back, to Manhattan, and I drove back that night. So Chili was the headliner. He was very nice. He wore a tie-dye shirt. He was very into like the Hawaiian and the tie-dye shirt. He looks like he just came from a Grateful Dead concert. He looked like an old hippie, very friendly and everything. And anyway, I certainly had not really been like in those parts, I had done comedy again, New Jersey, Long Island. I mean, still my people. And I struggled. I ate it. And I got off and I was so upset. And he came over and he goes, it's okay. He goes, you're going to get it. They're going to get you. Don't worry. And he was just giving me some, it's okay. Just relax. And he said a couple other things, just do this, do that. Not in my face. I'm not even giving it justice to how he was just so comforting. Basically what he was saying is it's okay, because we got the next show and we got the next, and you're going to find your rhythm and you're going to see what's going to work. I mean, that he wasn't telling me what jokes to do. And as a matter of fact, I remember him saying, oh, I like that joke. Oh, I like that joke. So it wasn't this critical, how sometimes comics are like, you should do this, or you should use a tag, or you should, which is fine. I mean, it's fine. It's natural.
Right.
But I'm saying wasn't anything like that. And then the Saturday shows were, a little bit better, but still, they should have been much better. And then finally, Sunday night, I got comfortable and I kind of got, it was better. I got my rhythm. And anyway, I talked to him all 4 shows. So nice. I got to tell you, I don't know. I might have quit comedy. if it wasn't there. I was so upset that I just couldn't do this, And so then Facebook, this was also around, like Facebook was around, and so we connected via Facebook. I think we had a couple of emails and stuff like that, but I would just see where he was. I mean, he was just like a comic. And then when I saw that post that he had passed, I was so upset, and I wrote a note to his son, and I'm like, look, I realized I didn't know him well at all, but just that brief time that I had with him, your dad did so much for me on every level. It's just really interesting how you meet people, and even if it's for the short amount of time, can have an effect on you.
That I think that's one of the beautiful things, like the behind the scenes of this business. I mean, it's so much of it is on the stage and in front of people, and that's what we live for and work for and stuff. But there are those things that happen behind the scenes like that, and Chili was one of those people, like you're saying. He was a fan of comedy. He's the kind of guy, he probably watched every set you did that weekend, and not all headliners do that. But he was a fan of comedy, and it is awesome, the people that you meet that leave a mark on you and they don't know it. But I wouldn't be where I am today, I know, if it weren't for certain people throughout my life, in this industry. So that's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Good story.
So I feel like his presence. I'm so glad we got to talk about it. Again, these people, I'm not taking anything away from the Jerry Seinfelds of the world, and
Right.
Chris Rocks, and now that, the Chelsea Handlers and all that. I mean, it's fine. It's like, God bless you and stuff. But the problem I have with it is that there are so many more wonderful, hilarious, talented comics that unless you happen to go to wherever that is that night, you don't know about them.
So that's the other thing I love about this business. I call it's in the moment, and so many people that are comedy fans are about watching it on TV. I'll watch it on TV, but for me, I'd much rather sit in a club, in a room, in a bar, and enjoy it, because you know what, there's no mulligan, there's no redo, there's no second chance, there's the next show. But when you're on stage in those minutes, that's it, that's all you got, and you're by yourself. There's nobody else there to, like a band has other members. This is a great art form in that sense, and it's incredible. That's another aspect of it that I just find wow.
So what led you to decide to actually open up and it's not, ladies and gentlemen, this is a beautiful club. This is not a room in a hotel or
No.
Some floating place where they call it the comedy club. This is a standalone on the corner on the main street. Beautiful glass in the front. By the way, the stage was the perfect height. The sound was impeccable. Your staff was wonderful. What was the bartender? She was so lovely.
Shawnee, the bartender.
Please tell her I say hello. She was so
I will. Oh, yeah.
And it was the MC was great. The feature was great. I know you. Well, I want you to kind of talk about like the club Monday through Sunday and what you have going on. But just it was so fun. It was so fun, and it was run right, and it was no stress for me as the comics. You know what I mean?
That's what we want to do.
But sometimes, like, even if when you're in the back or you're the green room, like you can feel like okay, you ready? There was none of that, and we did 2 shows, so we knew we had to finish on time, and et cetera, for the first show, which is fine, so they could turn over, and it was just it was just great. It was so easy breezy. So
well, one of the things we really strive to do is take that stress out for the performer, because if we can take the stress off you, and we can go through all of that, but that's, we all know what the stresses are, but if we take that away and you're comfortable and confident and it's a good time, that's going to translate on the stage to the guests, and it's symbiotic that way. But to get back to how I got into getting into a brick and mortar building, So about 7 years ago, I started producing it, and I had some New York City comedy friends that were looking for minutes on a stage, and there really wasn't a local scene in the area other than Cleveland, which is not really close to me. I mean, it's 45 minutes or an hour. So we could get them 5 minutes at the local club. So instead of doing that, I kind of stopped and thought and said, hey, I know a place. It's really cool, a very nice theater. I know a guy that has sound because I don't know anything about sound. And I know a guy from an FM radio station who could MC it. So I put all the dots together and I produced my first show. And I loved it. It was great. It was another addition to the performance art thing that I was doing. And I got bit by the bug. So next month we did another one. And then before you know it, we're doing 2 a month. Well, it wasn't long before we were doing 30, 40 shows a month, more shows than the local comedy club. But at this point, I had grown into multiple venues, what I call independent producing. So we were doing small theaters, bars, restaurants. I booked a couple of the large comedy clubs in the area, and we just kept growing and growing and growing. And then I got a residency at a place that was incredible in Akron. And so the growth was just natural. It came to a point where I said, well, the next step obviously is to do this. And that's when I started looking around for buildings. And I originally had a different building picked out for the comedy club than where I'm at now, although it's still on my table because I want to open a second club. That's how much fun I'm having.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, would that be crazy?
Oh my. Okay, we didn't even get to the fact of COVID yet, but okay, go ahead. Oh my God.
So I found this building that was vacant with a for lease sign in it in Massland. And the funny thing is I had produced a number of independent shows there. And this was just before COVID hit. And so I talked to the guy. We ended up going into a lease agreement, signed a lease agreement, and this was going to be my comedy club. And not 3 days later, the whole thing hit. You know, at what was it? For us, it was St. Patrick's Day, 2020. That's when, yeah, St. Patrick's Day, on or about there, it all fell, and they shut everything down. Well, I just signed a 3-year lease. Oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? So I call the guy and I say, look, I'm not really comfortable with this. I'd like an opportunity to talk to you about, let's hold off on this, or I'm going to exercise my 3-day cancellation on this thing. And so we sat down and talked, and he was willing to work with me, which I'm thinking is great. We're thinking a couple of weeks, maybe a month, and it's all going to be over and done with, you know, flatten the curve and stuff. Well, months and months go by, 2 years go by. And finally, you know, for here, they lifted the restrictions on capacity. That was my problem, was the numbers. So as soon as they lifted the restrictions on capacity, I pulled the trigger, which was July 15th of last year, 2020.
So
or
wait,
2021.
So April, May, June, July. So those 4 months, and those 4 months, and not knowing every day when that was going to be.
It was a year. It was a year and 4 months. We signed the lease. We signed it in March of 2020, and they didn't drop the stuff until July of 2021.
So I'm sorry, were you obligated for the rent for that entire time?
No. He let me off the hook.
Oh, okay.
He gave me a pause on it because I said there's no way I can do business with half capacity. The most I can put in the building is 200 people, you know, which is a nice number, but I can't. My business plan won't work with 100 people. My business plan was built to work with 200 people.
Right.
You know, so we held off, and then as soon as they lifted the restrictions, I went in. 6 weeks later, we opened. And it's been incredible ever since then, you know. I mean, we've had our bumps, and you have to change things and do things differently than we originally sought out to do. But I think that's wise, as opposed to trying to force something to happen. We're going to let the natural course, because it's art, and art has a natural course sometimes.
What were some of the things that you originally were trying to do and then you had to change?
So originally, we weren't going to do an open mic. We were going to do it was kind of like a local, regional, what was the term we used? Highlighting somebody from a local or regional area, comedian that was looking to get that break, to get onto a closing spot on a club. And we were doing a $5 or $10 ticket. And I literally was just bleeding money. There'd be nights when we first opened, the first 6 weeks, if we had 1 or 2 people on a Thursday night, we were lucky. And then on those months was the football season. Massillon is one of the top 10 high school football teams in the country.
Go Lions.
One of the
Lions.
Tigers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Lions and
Tigers.
Tigers. I said it on stage because when I walked the town, that every store, no matter what it was, it could have been the beauty parlor, they had the mascot on the window.
Yep. It's a very, very prideful town for their football. So on Friday nights, where everybody is. They're at the stadium. And if they're not at the stadium, they're watching the game on TV because they stream the high school football game.
Gosh.
Yeah. So Fridays were really tough coming out of the gate. We were playing to a dozen people, 2 dozen people, and things like that. And then even Saturdays, we didn't sell out. It took us a couple of months to get to the sellout point and stuff. So what we did with the Thursday show is we changed that. We made it an open mic, and Thursdays now are just as busy as our weekends. You can come in on Thursday and have just as much fun as you would on a Friday or Saturday night and such. So, and then we're open on Sundays, and Sundays are kind of quiet, kind of slow, but it's fun. We actually have 2 rooms in the club. We have the big showroom, and we have a smaller room that we call the rubber room at Crackpots, and it holds about 50 people. And so if we have less than 50 people, we'll use the rubber room, because the energy is great when you put that number of people in a room, as opposed to putting them into a room that was seating 125. That's not a good feel. So again, we're very fortunate to have 2 rooms to be able to do that and such. So, and now we're in the process this week, as I told you, expanding. We've expanded the showroom, and it seats now 200 people, which is all I'm allowed to put in the building. So that's what we're doing. We have our retail merchandise area that's expanding, and that's growing. One of my dreams on that is to have the consignment store for comedians, where you can leave your merchandise and we can sell it for you, and then we can cut you a check for what we've sold of yours and things. So, and that's started to come to fruition as different regional and local comedians are consignment items to us in the form of like t-shirts and books. It's pretty cool. It's working.
That is so terrific. Well, when the next time I come, hopefully I'll get a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, or is there something, a Crackpot sweatshirt I can have? Those are great. I love sweatshirts from comedy clubs. Love.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite thing. So Thursday you have open mic. Friday, Saturday night you have a full show. What about Sunday night? You said you
Sunday is we do a showcase on Sunday where we invite local or regionals. Mm-hmm. It's kind of an audition night. Last Sunday we had a young lady who came all the way from Los Angeles, actually. Well, she had a gig in the area, a private gig, but she wanted the opportunity to audition, and she came out. And we get some of those on Sunday. So Sundays we set aside for people that it's by an invitation. You're invited to come and perform on Sundays. We included in the admission is a buffet, and then it's pretty good buffet. We offer a wide variety of food on it and stuff like that. And the tickets are currently only $5 for Sunday. Isn't that incredible? So you get a 90-minute show and a buffet.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
gosh.
Yeah. Well, if anybody lives in the radius and you guys will drive far, you should absolutely take advantage of that. And the food was good. And there was a chocolate cake that I scarfed in a matter of 7 seconds. There was not a crumb left.
that thick fudge icing in between the
Oh,
layers, right?
it
Oh my
was
goodness, that
it was
stuff is,
delicious. I went for it.
yeah, yeah.
So, and then are you dark on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday?
Um,
For now?
the easy answer is yes. We're
Mhm.
starting to do some more shows now, but what we're doing is letting other people produce the shows. So, and then we give the door to them for that, you know. So if you want to come in on a Wednesday with you and a couple guys or gals or a couple other comedians, then you come in and you can put on a show. And if you want to charge tickets, or you can do it for free, however works best, and you can have that night. So we've been fortunate that's starting to grow. We get a couple of them throughout the month.
Mhm.
Ideally, I'd like to do, 5 nights a week. I still like to have 2 nights off, but
Right,
5 nights a week wouldn't be bad.
right, right.
But I'm also pulling other shows in other cities at the same time. So like when we're doing these shows here at the club, I still have country club shows I'm pulling on a monthly basis. I have a theater in Pittsburgh that I do a monthly at. And I was telling you when we started today, I just landed the local Akron Civic Theater, which wants me to do a weekend monthly. So, it's not uncommon for Fridays or Saturdays for me to have 2 shows in 2 different cities, maybe even 2 different states and stuff.
And
So
you have a great staff at the club, but in terms of people helping you with the business, there was it's not like you have 25 people. I mean, you, and then there was that gentleman, I think he was the one with the sound, right? He was the one that
yeah,
walked. Right.
Brian Reed. Yeah, the one thing you got to have in this business, I think, is a right hand man. And Brian Reed is a godsend to me. He's not an employee. He is just a huge supporter of Crackpots. He's there from open to close 4 nights a week, whatever we need him to do, And when comedians come in, like he probably was one of the first to greet you
Yes.
and such like that. He's usually the one to make sure you're taken care of, things like that. He's a blessing. So, but yeah, when I go out on the road and we do these different shows, you have to have people that work for you and get paid. So like in Pittsburgh, I have a gentleman who is an MC who MCs all my shows out there, and so he's kind of the on point guy in Pittsburgh and stuff. So country club shows, I've got a couple of MCs that I work with on a regular basis, and they're the people that I turn to for that and stuff. The Akron Civic Theater, I'll probably be making the visits to personally and stuff, because again, I think you spoke well enough about the team that you get the idea they could probably do this on their own. They don't need me standing there watching them do it. So for me to take a Friday night off once a month and go to the Akron Civic Theater, I don't think is going to hurt one bit.
So where did you come up with the name Crackpots?
Oh, that's another great story. Okay. So I had no name. Here I am. I've
I had
signed
no
the
name.
lease. I'm doing my build up, and I had some working titles that I don't even remember. I'd have to think real hard about. Had some working titles, nothing that was working for me and stuff. Now I have another business where I remodel homes, but fortunately I've been able to retire from that because of the comedy club. But at the time I was still doing both jobs. I was remodeling and running the club, building it out at this point. And I have some neighbors that are just terrible. Everybody has had that neighbor in their life that is the worst. I have drug dealing meth heads, and I live in a nice neighborhood. It's not a bad neighborhood. It's just bad people that are living next to me. And because of that, we have a lot of confrontation. They've been arrested and things like that, and they don't like it. So they try to do what I call little jabs. So I was remodeling a house. I set a toilet on the curb of the road for the trash to pick up, because they'll take anything that you set on the side of the road where I live. And the neighbors thought it would be funny to take a green magic marker and write the word crackpot with an arrow pointing to my house. And I saw this and I'm like, that's friggin' hilarious.
That is so
And it was like,
Oh
there's
my-
times in your life like where do you see like fireworks or sparklers when you know that it's so sweet And I probably had the hardest time getting the van to stop because I didn't even pull in the driveway. I jumped out and I got down on the ground next to the toilet and I flashed a selfie with me in the toilet saying the word crackpot. Because right at that very moment, I knew that was my club's name. Isn't that crazy?
That
And
is
my neighbors have no idea. My neighbors have no idea.
that is an amazing story. And wait, did they spell it with a K?
No, they did not.
They
They
did.
spelled it. They
Okay.
spelled it with a C.
But
Yeah,
yours
yeah.
obviously spelled with a K. Oh my God. That's a great story. That story, that's
You couldn't make that up.
right.
You
Exactly. I was
couldn't
just
make
gonna
that
say
up. You couldn't
Right.
make that. Yeah. So
Who
my
knew?
dad thinks it's because we had a family friend when I was young, growing up, a friend of the family, and they called him Crackpot Charlie. And my dad asked me if that's where I took it from. And I was like, sounds good, Dad, but no. The other story is much better.
And you know, it's funny. You don't really hear the term crackpot.
Not, yeah, it's not a
You know what I mean?
common
Like
word
you hear,
anymore.
right. You know, but oh my God, that's great. That's a great
So I
story.
looked into the words, I mean,
Uh-huh.
before you commit to something, you want to understand it a little bit. And the great thing about it is that it's a word that can be used either way. Often they'll refer to somebody that's very skilled or talented as like a mechanic, perhaps as a crackpot mechanic, somebody who's got good skills. But it can be that guy who's walking around with one left shoe. Look at that crackpot. So, and we use that to our advantage. When we knock it out of the park, we say, what do you expect? We're crackpots. But when we drop the ball, well, what'd you expect? We're a couple of crackpots.
That's great. It's reversible.
Yeah, it works. It works. So,
oh my God, that's
it's like,
great. Well,
yeah.
I'm happy for you. And it's such hard work. Look, anybody that knows anything also about just retail in general, the restaurant business is incredibly hard. The comedy club business is no different. And in your club, you are serving food. I mean, it is, a restaurant, a bar, and entertainment.
Yeah,
and it really is very 24/7. You're dealing with a lot of different attributes. You're dealing with I'm sure Ohio isn't as bad as New York City, but still there's a board of health, there's inspectors. I mean, people come,
licensing, insurance.
Right. You serve alcohol. Right. So it's a whole host of things that you don't even think about. So
I can give you all the reasons not to do what I did.
But you love it. You have to love it. It's like stand-up comedy. I tell people this, like, oh my God, that's so cool. Oh, maybe I'll do it. Listen, I'm like, look, go ahead, do it, whatever. But I'm just going to tell you right now, because you get to a certain point in it, right? Like anybody can try it. You can go to a class, anybody can go to an open mic. All you need is, $5 and buy a drink. That's not the hard part. But if you've been doing it a while, I always say you have to come to a decision as to, I think at least, how far do you want to pursue this? And yet, can it be a hobby? Again, we live in America, of course. I'm not saying don't do and, do what makes you happy. But there are lots of people, and I'll just speak for comedy. I don't know how it is as much in music and all that, but just for comedy, because it's so specific, and it really is about writing and it's because the behind the scenes, there's so much work involved in just the creating part. I didn't even get to the getting the gigs part. And so you have to figure out, and the schlepping, by the way, lots of schlepping. And I live in New York City, certainly a lot of opportunity here, for the first bunch of years to do comedy, to go to open mics, to do a bringer show, to get a guest spot on, producer show, a friend, but like you build that up over time. But at some point, you got to get out of the city. and you got to go places, and you got to, and then you got to get on a plane, and you got to fly someplace. It's a lot of schlepping. We spend more time traveling and doing all of that than we do on stage. So just to get back to owning a club, just like being the comic, you have to love it, because you're a lover of comedy, you love comics, you love the whole history about it. You have to be into it, or else you need help. You need help. Right? You could go be an accountant, and it could be so much easier, like an insurance adjuster or something,
Right. But it's a passion, though. This is my retirement plan. This is, and it's never worked for me. I really enjoy everything that I do every day, and I know I'm very blessed in that, to have that. But I can pay my bills doing something I love to do.
You've licked it. So let me ask you, for comics that are listening to this. So what do you look for at your club, to have at your club? Because the same comic you would love, and perhaps Nick at Hilarities won't love, and they could be the same.
Right.
What do you look for?
Well, our demographics are a little bit different, being in a smaller town, I think. So I have to meet the needs of the demographics. But first and foremost, I think that before I even look at that, is I just want somebody who's going to be an entertainer. If you're here for First Amendment stuff, that's not, I want you to entertain. That's what we do in this business, first and foremost. So, but besides that, our demographics for the weekends are people that are 35 and older. So they like more of a classic style comedy. They don't want it to be on the cutting edge. They don't want it to go, they don't necessarily need you to take them to that edge and then try to bring them back. So they just like a good classic evening of enjoyable comedy, and it comes in a variety of shapes and forms. That's a great thing. So, but if you can do that, I'm interested in looking at your clip, and that's a lie, because actually I send it to the team. My employees view all the clips, so I don't watch any clips anymore. But they love that, and they'll let me know, and then we have, I think we have dinner on Fridays and Saturdays. The employees, we all eat dinner together before we open at the club. That's one of the things we do, and we talk about comedians and clips that they've watched and things like that and stuff. And it gives them a buy-in value to the club. I feel that way. So some of the comedians that have come through the club have been booked because that process, where the server or the bartender or the cook watched the clip and they shared it with the other employee, and then we talked about it and stuff. So
very interesting. Very.
Well, my staffing's a hard thing these days. That's, for me, all I can do is have them be involved and treat them nice, treat them like you would family, So I feed them every night for free, and I really try to be there. But it's a business too, so you got to have that line, which is tough. I've had some people that tried to run over the line, but usually it works.
So in terms of comedy, so have you had people come in that you've had that, even though maybe the audience had a good time, they necessarily weren't for you?
You mean for my liking, or for the club?
For the club.
Yeah, because my taste has no bearing on anything. That would be stupid to use my taste. We have had some people that weren't a good fit. Yeah, that's going to happen. We've had Friday and Saturday nights. We've had closers that probably weren't the best choice at times. Some of the things, and going back to, and I'm not blaming the staff, but looking at the videos, one of the problems is somebody can look good on a 5, 10, 15, 20-minute clip, but 40 minutes, what's the other 20 minutes looking like there? You know what I mean? And that's often the case. And to be a closer, you can't have a strong 20. You got to have the strong 40. So, so yeah, you know, vetting is a big part of this, so that you do it right. So I learned real quick. There's a big jump and change from going from restaurant and bar clubs and theater clubs like that to a real comedy club. So I learned lessons. There was lessons to be had early on.
Yeah, and well, I mean, yeah, and we're all, we're always learning, right? I mean,
Always learning, always
always,
changing and adjusting.
right,
Yes,
always.
because it's all changing around us. This art form, it's not the same art form it was pre-COVID even. It's not the same art form it was 50 years ago. It's changing all the time, and to a degree, we have to keep up with that.
I'm glad that you said that you want someone to entertain, because that's very much how I respond when somebody asks me a question about comedy. I just want to make people happy. I'm not looking to piss anybody off. I'm not looking to even though you saw my even though there's things that I say that seep in my sarcastic New York way.
Right, with energy.
Kind of piece together a little bit of, where I'm swaying on certain topics, not everything, obviously. But I try to do everything in a very funny way. And if I am ever up, I was gonna say, if I'm ever up at a stage, if I do something, one of the beauties about being an experienced comic, even though you feel like you're 1,000 years old at this point, is that you do develop an instinct. And to me, if I do something, or I've got, because I've got chunks of material, I've got the relationship, I got the family, I got the Greek, I'm from New York City, I got, this, that, whatever. And if I feel like I'm doing a chunk that's not really resonating, I'm quick to adjust, as we talked about adjustment, to go to something else. And then I'm like, oh, they want to hear the marriage stuff, or, and that's why you have to also have a really big set list that you can pull from. And so I like that. And getting back to your point is I want people, because I am very respectful about money. And that comes from my upbringing. And that comes from the fact that I was a CPA. So I know all about finances, and that's disposable income. That's what we call disposable income. So that's money that they don't have to spend. It's not gas, it's not food, it's not not eating at your club, but I'm just saying, it's not the clothes, it's the extra money, it's the entertainment money. And people, and just take, and even where you are in Ohio, I mean, 2 people, food, drinks, could be cover charge, somewhere, let's just say $100, for 2 people, could easily be like that, depending on how much people drink or whatever. And I want them to feel like they got their money's worth. They came out of the house, they took their time, they spent their hard-earned money. Okay, I don't know how much they make an hour. Maybe they make $15 an hour. That's like, that's like 7 hours worth of work. And they came to sit back and relax and have fun. And that's the job. And that's what I try to deliver. That's always my mantra. It's not about, I have to say this and I have to say that, and I have to convince them that. And so it's interesting. I'm not criticizing anybody. Everybody's got to do their own thing. And
I agree with you there.
Yeah. And I'm self-deprecating, but I know what you're talking about with like the dark stuff, because sometimes it's like, but again, that works in other places. That works, so, and it really has evolved. It really, really has evolved into sort of different genres. It's almost, become its own, it's sort of like its own, it's got its own buckets of and then also obviously depending on the audience and stuff. So I'm not quite sure, the millennials, I mean, certainly I look out and I see people that are very young, in their 20s, And, so, and it's funny, I will try to zero in on them to see if they're laughing, to see if like they're getting what I'm saying. And sometimes, even if they don't get it, because of course they haven't lived as long and experienced as much, but I at least try to deliver the description, or I'll address them and make fun of, like, our generation versus their generation,
Right.
So you got to be able to maneuver. It's like a lot of gears, and at the same time. But I'm glad you said that, because that's really, to me, that is like so important, and that's also why. And I was taught this, and I think I said this to you in the car when I took an MC class with
Mhm.
Eddie Brill, who you may know who he is. He was the warm-up guy for
Right.
David Letterman for many years, and he
No, I
also
know.
a stand-up comic also, and he used to book Letterman. It's funny, that was my bucket list thing, that I always wanted to be on Letterman. But anyway, I think he actually used to do this class at Gotham Comedy Club, and when I got into it, I remember people like, "Oh, you got to take Eddie's class or whatever." He does it like, I don't know, every few months on a weekend. Anyway, I'll never forget what he said. He said, "Do not take it out on the
Oh, yeah.
people that came," right? Because just not every room is full sometimes. Like you said, where you had like some 2 people and whatnot.
Mhm.
Things happen, nights happen, whatever it is, because they came. It's the people that didn't come. So again,
Right.
like when a comic goes, I say, "Oh, it's only you guys. Oh, I could do this in my living room." I mean, you could say that, you know what I mean? But you still have to give these people a show.
Yes.
So I think that's important. I think that's very, very important.
Yes, it is. I agree with you. Yeah. I think it's.
I commend you for, first of all, for owning your own business. I love the entrepreneurial spirit. I think this is the backbone of what's made this country a great country. And I commend you just as much for giving comics work, because again, unless you live this life, you have no idea.
Yeah.
No, I'm not asking for the violin. I'm just saying. It's very complicated, and
There's a lot of unique individuals too, so that makes it all the more interesting at times. So.
I like, again, I didn't come in as a 21-year-old. I came in like as a second career. I worked in corporate America, so I like to think that I came in with maturity. But not everybody is like that. And
That's very true.
and it's just different. And that's why I love this podcast, because I get to find out, and I've had obviously a lot of comics on, and to kind of find out what their journey has been. And there's some people that they went to college and they got a theater degree, and there's a lot of that, the acting, and then they got into comedy, and there's some that just went straight for it, and then there's a lot that did a bunch of other jobs and then got into comedy. But it's interesting to find, I find the people that have been the artist for the entire time, whether it was acting or singing or whatever, their adjustment, and sort of, sometimes I don't want to say they don't live in reality. That's not what I'm trying to say. They're because they never kind of had that steady paycheck or that accountability in terms of a consistency in a 9 to 5. So sometimes I find sometimes those people struggle a little bit more.
Right.
There's something about that artist mentality. It's great to be an artist, but you also have to be able to function in life.
Right. There's a curse that goes along with that and stuff. So I think because they're so emotionally driven, I think sometimes that they work off of emotional reactions, but I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, very different. I entered late, like you. I had done many things before I had ever tried stand-up comedy and stuff. So I don't know. It was a work ethic I brought with me. I know what you're saying there, with that. I
Right.
understood business. So
Right. And
it's
again,
nice.
I'm not judging, but just sometimes through the years, the people that I've met and comics, very bright, not, and this isn't about intelligence, but I'm just like, oh my, and I'm not talking about relationships. I'm just talking about like just sort of like finances. And I'm like, God, they're a mess. Like, oh, like,
A lot of comedians have a very poor business sense, even
right. Like,
personal finance,
you're
even
a
personal
mess.
finance mess. You know, yes, yeah, that's
Or,
not uncommon.
or wait a minute, you've done a ton of successful things. How come
But
you just
zero.
said you can't pay your rent? Like, I don't get that. You've been on blah, 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 blah. Why are you, why do
Yeah,
you not have health insurance? You know what I mean? Like, why,
right.
like, why is that? So that's really what I was trying to say. But anyway, I know I'm starting to sound judgy. I'm just saying
It's out there though.
it's a very eclectic group of people.
And
And
I wouldn't change it for the world, really. It comes down to it, you know?
that's what makes us tick. So tell us now, you've got the club, it's in Massillon, which is, it's actually closer to Canton, right? You're 20
Yep,
20 minutes from Canton. So
yep,
for
about that.
anybody, listen, you go out there, if you're driving through, whatever you're doing, I highly recommend you carve out an evening to go to Crackpots because it is well worth it. And then you're gonna have a second, and then you're gonna have a second room at some point.
Well, we have the second room at the club already. We have 2 rooms there now.
No, I meant a second club, a second.
Oh, second club will be, yeah, it's about a year and a half away right now.
All right.
That's what we're thinking, so.
We'll have to,
Yeah,
we'll have to,
wait till you see that, Ellen, then we'll talk.
oh my God, I'll definitely have to have you back to talk about that. Well, I want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm just so grateful that we met. We were introduced. So for anybody wanting to know how I got out to the club, I will say that it was a mutual comedian friend, our friend Greg, and he came
Yes.
there. And Greg Kritikos, I've had him on the podcast, a friend of mine, fellow Greek, and he very generously, you never, this is sort of like a whole nother thing. Like, how do you get work? Well, there's no human resources. Okay. I'll tell you that right now. Okay. There's no, Indeed.com or anything like that. It's, you got to meet people and network and make friends and
Yes.
make your close circle of friends and all of that. But anyway, Greg,
Do unto others as you'd have do unto you is what I say.
Exactly.
It's probably best applied to this industry.
Very much so. And Greg was very generous. And he just, I mean, unsolicited, he's like, Ellen, and Greg talks with a very raspy voice. Like, I gotta hook you up with, he's very Queen. I'm gonna hook you up with Chris. I'm like, oh, thank you. And then we spoke, and then you didn't, although you said you've been to New York,
Many times, many times.
Yeah. So hopefully,
Yeah.
a little bit.
Greg and I have years of back and forth. Yeah, he's a great guy. We're very good friends.
Yeah, no, he was a great guy, and I'm very grateful. And I did call him after when I came back, to thank him
I'm sure
again.
you did.
And told him I had a really great time. So thank you
That's
so
good.
much. Hang on, we're gonna wrap up, and then I just talk to you for like a second before we get off. So everybody, again, Crackpots Comedy Club in Massillon, Ohio. Fantastic. It's an hour outside of Cleveland. For any of my Midwest listeners who live in Ohio, please check it out. There's a website, and you'll have a great time. I guarantee it.
You will have a good time.
Absolutely. My name is Ellen Karis. Check me out. Go to my website, ellenkaris.com, ELLENKARIS.com. I am on Twitter and Facebook. I am on Twitter and Instagram at Greek Chick Comic, Facebook, Ellen Karis, Greek Goddess of Comedy. Crackpots has a Facebook page?
Yeah, Crackpots Comedy Club, or at Crackpots, we'll get it to you.
Okay. Follow Crackpots on Facebook. Till next time, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye.